what a vibe. Yo,
Love that song.
I love how the four members all sound so different. Like
I'm Kathleen Scher.
and I'm Allison Toy. On our show,
And I'm too
we get
cheap to
feature
buy
full
this, so
songs
I should quit
alongside
getting
their stories when we highlight Asian artists.
commercials. Let's try that. Hey, it works.
Welcome, everybody. How's it going?
Well, other than the Cylons taking over Facebook this afternoon for a while.
Well, that's why they're in the cabinet behind you.
That's it. They're taking over. That
Fully
was
functional.
That was like, hey,
Those are very
Facebook
distracting.
doesn't work.
Why are they on? What is going on back there?
That's my, we're backwards today. Usually it's 2 in front, 1 in back. And it's now 1 in front, 2 in back. It's a different Cylon Raider.
That's right. It's like one of those home ones.
That's
all right.
It's the home-built Cylon Raider by Ronco. Buy your own Cylon Raider and put it together.
That's right. So we have guests with us. We have live participants. Welcome to IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. Those of you that are joining us for the first time, we are a news and entertainment show program, and we are Battlestar Galactica 1978 focus-centric a little bit, but a little bit too much, too little. But we love Battlestar Galactica and all sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Chris. Let's toast the fans, right? Because if it's
let's not toast them. Let's toast the fans.
Oh, really?
The Cylons are worrying, if you want the Cylons to do it, the Cylons will toast them for you, if that's what you really wanted. But I think you really want us to toast to the fans, not toast the fans. That would be bad. And we want to keep the fans. They're important. So don't toast them.
That's usually my line. That's usually what I talk about. Okay, yes. You're right. And, so be careful because the Pegasus is on standby based on what I was just told.
The Colonials and their Pegasus. Pegasus is going to save us. Well, I got one word for that.
You actually believe that, Daddy Dribble?
Oh, Commander Kane and the Pegasus will always save us. He's dead.
Boy. All right. Relax, Mr. Boltar Jr.
That's a compliment.
Is it really?
Yes.
Well, you know what?
Except
Fans fuel the fleet.
That's it. Fans fuel the feet. I did it again. Fans fuel the fleet. Fans do not fuel my feet. So fans fuel the fleet. So, and I have not been drinking.
Talk about
again,
toasting.
I got to start drinking, evidently.
Okay. You know what?
So,
let's toast to the fans. Because fans fuel the
fleet. There we go. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And thanks for being a fan.
All right. So,
WD-40.
Of course, we have with us, oh boy, all-star lineup of, we have Chris, we have Mediocre Modeler, we got George, and we got Lola. Her name is Lola. No, her name was Lola. But
right.
We have a Lola, so her name is Lola. She was a chauffeur. You ruined it. You ruined it. Stop with that. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Appreciate it. So, listen, we have some stuff. Hola Lola. Yes, we have a whole bunch of stuff to tell you about. But in the meantime, Chris, this week we were working on, in the background, acquiring and making contact and reaching out to as many interested parties and just basically networking. So we were able to, tease out and find some new actual contacts that we're going to be bringing to you soon enough. We're going to have a lot of fun with some of our newfound colonies and fans. So that we have a whole lineup for you. So we're going to have some fun with that as the shows progress. Not to mention that at some point we're going to do a major celebration, right? We have our first anniversary slash birthday bash that we're going to be working on, and we're going to have some guests coming on for that. And Chris, we talked a little bit about this before, right? So we
Yes.
are going to
Red Dead Redemption.
discuss.
No, wrong one.
Yes, and so Richard Hatch's book. This is the last one. I had my own copy on the shelf, and I pulled it out. And
That's the last one? That's the last one they ever made?
actually, this is the last one that was printed, Chris.
Okay.
So this is the last one printed. Hardcover. This is actually the British edition. This is not the American edition. But that doesn't mean that Richard Hatch did not write another one. He did. And we have a line to possibly getting it made, so we'll talk to you guys more about that as we work through this. And aside from that, Chris, we also did a preliminary interview with some of the Pioneer Battlestar
really
Galactica.
good word, yes.
Yes, the Pioneer Battlestar Galactica fans that are pretty much legendary, depending on how far back you go. And we had an awesome conversation with him, and he's going to be a guest. We're gonna have him on, and we will, I guess, Chris. I don't know how are we gonna handle that, because he's definitely coming on. He's interested in passing on his stories on what it was like early on, the early Battlestar Galactica. So we got stories, and we got some really cool.
I'm going to cheat
stuff.
one story right. Oh, no, I can't. I should, but that was the Polaroid story is just amazing to me.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, there's.
So,
we got some really cool stuff for you guys, and stay tuned, and we'll start dropping names as we move forward. But we also are going to be talking about some of the upcoming things, and I think it's just the right time for us to bring in our episodic and movie / book reviewer, our very own Tiny Bean Tara, and she's going to tell us what she's got. So welcome.
I like Tiny Bean Terror better, but
I'm sure she could be a terror when she needs to be.
Great. Hi guys, it's great to be back. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been a really exciting couple of weeks in the sci-fi world at large. We just had First Contact Day, Star Wars April 5th, Star Trek April 5th, and they just dropped that the next season of Picard is going to hit, and they're bringing back Q, which that makes me so happy. So I'm really excited, looking forward to that one. And then the Star Wars news is that they dropped the cast lineup for the Obi-Wan series, which they are bringing back Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader. So be on the lookout for that next year. And then I wanted to do my great moments in Shatner. A little shout out to my hero, the great William Shatner, for his 90th birthday year. And as we talked about the last time I was here, he is going to be up in the Adirondacks at Fort Ticonderoga this summer on the actual Star Trek set. So you can come and see him and be on the set, and what an amazing thing that is. So for my great moments in Shatner tonight, I just wanted to talk about Shatner on The Twilight Zone. And he was on actually 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone in the early 60s. The first one was in 1960. He was in the episode Nick of Time. If you guys remember that one with the mystic seer in the diner, that he and his wife show up and they keep asking the mystic seer questions. That was a great one. And then the second one he was in was 1963. He was in Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Probably one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes, and one of the most parodied through the years. Funny story too, that in the 1983 version of the Twilight Zone, they had John Lithgow on, and John Lithgow kind of did a almost reimagined version of that same episode. And at one point later on Third Rock from the Sun, they had William Shatner on, and they both alluded to that, where John Lithgow says something about the gremlin outside, and Shatner goes, "The same thing happened to me." So that's my great moments in Shatner for the week. But my big deep dive in the last couple of weeks that we mentioned a couple weeks ago was I was going to check out Lev Grossman's The Magicians. Now, I started with the Netflix series rather than the books, and I got to tell you, very, very interesting. It's very much Harry Potter goes to college, kind of, but as George R.R. Martin said, The Magicians is to Harry Potter what a stiff glass of whiskey is to a weak cup of tea. So you have to be sure that you have the stomach for it. I've binged the first 2 seasons. Really, really interesting. There are parts that to me get a little, 90210-ish, who's having a relationship with who. And I feel like once they get that stuff out of the way and get back to the story, it's really, really terrific. So I'm going to keep going with that. I want to finish it up. There's a few more seasons before, unfortunately, Sci-Fi went ahead and canceled it. Now, I'm also told that it veers very much from the books, which is why I have elected to finish watching the series before I tackle the books, which I just picked up this beautiful little box set. So I'm very excited about that. So that is what I am going to start next.
Fantastic. So let's keep going with the shows. I personally have watched The Magicians. I thought Magicians were excellent. I've watched all of them. So it sounds like you're giving a pretty strong endorsement. And I second it, of course. And I actually, like you, I pursued the books and I got them for Christmas. And I did the same thing that you're kind of doing. I wanted to make sure I watched all of it first. And so I did. And now I'm going to start to go back a little bit. I'm thinking of rewatching it, especially since you seem to. I'm going to wait for you to watch the whole thing, and then I might go in and take another deep dive into it.
Nice. And Pete, you want to be on the lookout for, I believe it's episode 2 in the first season, where Lev Grossman actually does a little Hitchcock cameo, where he plays, and he's like they're watching TV in the background, and the person on the TV is an expert about Fillory, and he's Dr. So-and-so, and it was Lev Grossman playing that part. So that was a cute touch.
Oh, that is so cool. Fantastic. Well, Tiny Bean, thank you for coming on, and looking forward to the next update. You'll be on not next week, but the week after. So get out there and keep watching and keep bringing us back some good info. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
And by the way,
cut off quick.
You got some greetings, and you get a hi from actually Deborah P and Karen M and Chris P. But Deborah says hi, Tara. So thank you, Tara, Tiny Bean. And Chris, where does that leave us? Where are we now? We have some. I was going to.
Yes, I haven't seen this. So
I was going to discuss this with you a little bit. This is the Galactica Stuff, a Colonial's Guide to the Galaxy. This happens to be the 2nd edition, and this is the back cover. And this is one of those fanzines that were created back in the day. This, I believe, is from like the mid to late 80s. I think it's from 1987. Sharon Monroe was involved. and believe it or not, her husband was also involved in it. And I am going to open this up real quick right here with everybody for you guys to see, because it's that worth it. When you take a quick look inside, I'm going to show you some of the pages, and it's really, really cool. They actually have here. This is just phenomenal. Look at that. They got drawings of all the different characters and some really nice, well, look at
Ship
that.
of Lights.
Yeah.
Eastern Alliance.
Isn't that cool?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think I got something for you, Chris. Yes, this is for you, buddy. Here. Look at
But
that.
of course, the most important things.
Yeah. Isn't that cool, though?
I like the ILs.
The ILs, man. I got all the ILs, and there's your favorite Boltar and Imperious Leader. Very cool, isn't that? That's something.
Voltar even looks pouchy on his stomach. It's pretty good.
I know. They gave him a little bit of a, yeah, he's got a little bit of a
little
pop belly.
pooch.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh, right? So there's some really cool stuff.
My other car's
and we will do a little bit of a review when the time comes. We'll actually get into some of these things, and you know, these fanzines are something that Chris and I are really, really big on. And full disclosure, you know, Chris has always been a bigger fan and collector of the fanzines, and I came in contact with them back in the early 80s, going to a convention, but at that time I was still trying to collect the Battlestar Galactica articles, magazine articles. So I was still trying to hunt down, you know, whatever Starlog, Fantastic Films, or, you know, some of the other magazines, especially the British ones that were still out there, Starburst, and so, you know, Future, and some of the other ones. So whenever I'd run into the fanzine thing, I was like, I'm still looking to try to get some of the official interviews and some of that other stuff. So I overlooked it. Whereas I know Chris was reading them. He was getting them and reading them from early on. And I was a little late to the show in terms of the fanzine aspect of it.
I guess the one of the important things is we kind of discuss. Some people don't even know what a fanzine is, or fan fiction is, maybe. So,
right.
You know, what do you do when you're like your most favorite show in the world is canceled by the network? And you back then you do a letter writing campaign, try to bring it back as 1980, which was a mistake. But anyways, you try to bring it back. You try to get them involved. You try to, you know, tell the studios back. You know, nowadays you can hit them on Facebook, and you know, even like we use a good example is the Screaming Firehawks. If you guys are out there, thank you for The Expanse. You know, we got another network picked up The Expanse after Sci-Fi cancels it. Of course, Sci-Fi cancels everything that's any decent. I don't know what that model is for their kind of thing, but that's how it works, I guess. So they cancel anything that's decent and they move on. But you know, so people in, you know, 70s, 80s, they would write fan fiction. They would write a continuation. Hey, what would happen if this happened? So they call it fan fiction, and a lot of people would put those together. And then back in the 80s, as most of us know, and some of us don't know, I don't know how many, probably got an older crowd on here, like myself, but the internet was kind of not taking off at that time. So it was a lot of mailings, mail people, you know, people would mail in stories. And then of course the first message boards showed up, and those kind of things hit there. And I think it really says something about the fans that do this, the fans that want to continue on the story. It's so important to them that they invent the answers to their questions. And, you know, what would have happened in season 2? Well, you know, what was supposed to happen, what happened in my season 2 was this. So, and there's, of course, of all different fanzines out there, and the different companies were running them at the time. Curious about the legal pieces of it. I never could understand what you could get away with, but there was, you know, you could actually write fanzines and I guess not make money off of them, and put them in a paper catalog and mimeograph them off. And a lot of us probably can smell that right now, the nice purple colored mimeographs or the old Xerox machines. And they would make these fans, these companies like Clean Slate Press and a number of others would put these things together, and they would serve as the publisher. And these fanzines would publish, these publishers would send out fanzines. Wasn't a whole lot of them in regards to numbers. Like I think there's a big, if you want to look, there's Purple and Orange, there's Caprica, Songs of Caprica. Off the top of my head, there's Anomaly. There was Pete.
Adama Journal.
Adama Journals.
There's probably like a
9 or 10,
a couple dozen.
Yeah, of different ones just for Battlestar Galactica. But it's funny that also that there's other ones for. If you start looking into it, there's Knight Rider. There's
every single show.
Show you can think
every
of.
Every show's got
$6 Million Man. Just Airwolf, amazing how many people would
Magnum.
Go. Airwolf.
Oh, yeah.
I need to find some Airwolf ones. I want to read some Airwolf ones. I liked Airwolf a lot.
Equalizer. There is a ton. Right. Oh, yeah. Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us. Lola says she had actually sent, those of you that don't know, Lola is one of our hardcore fans and supporters. And thank you for that, Lola. But Lola also is a fanfic writer. And so she says that she had submitted her work once upon a time, which we will be discussing at some point. We will discuss her work, which is very interesting. Chris P says, the Cylon head to your left, Chris, I moves faster than the other one. So...
Well, that's the gold one. He thinks a little faster. I mean, slower. And then the silver one has to think a lot faster because he has one brain. So the gold one has two brains, so he can slow that down.
Thanks for that, Chris. That was good. All right, so that's kind of a little bit of a background, but Chris, you didn't mention some of the key names when it came to fan fiction were Sharon Monroe and Susan Paxton.
Yes,
very instrumental in
stalking
in that
them for
world.
Months now, trying to find them,
trying to see. And we have a line. We have somebody that actually worked with them and got to know them personally, one-on-one, at conventions when they first met back in the early 80s. Galactica, I think, had just gone off the air, and so we now have a new line, possibly to try to get a hold of both of them, or at least one of them, and we'd love to try to pick their brain and just get really immerse ourselves into the world of the fan fiction, which is another means of expanding the stories, right? It's now an ability to go beyond what we saw, either completely extrapolate, what it might become. Sometimes there's some major, huge crossover worlds and sections. Big themes for some of these shows is to, capture the essence of the show and then bring in another one that you would never think, and do a crossover with them. And some of those are when they're done well, are they're phenomenal. A lot of fun. So we've been, I myself knew about these things, didn't really read so much, but in the last few years I've started to catch up. I've started to actually get some of these things, and I started reading some of them, and man, really, really good stuff. I know, like I told you before, Chris is really big into the fan fiction, the Galactica fan fiction. He's been reading them way longer than I have, and so he's bringing me up to speed, and I'm catching up as quickly as I can. But it's something that I've always had a soft spot for, so I'm glad to be able to do that. And it's something that, believe it or not, is still going on as we speak. There are things that are being written. There's stories now as we speak, written role-playing so to speak, games that are going on. And one of the groups that we are kind of involved with, that we're affiliated with, and that's Silver Spar Squadron. And the admins over there, primarily Mr. Mike Steiner, and he's developing his own fan fiction role playing, and so they're he's working with that and doing that as we speak, and so he's setting up a little bit of a primer on how to go about doing it, and they're having a massive time, having a lot of fun doing it. And so there is fan fiction going on as we speak, not only for the older stuff, but believe it or not, the new shows. There are shows on television right now that we're talking about and covering or trying to that continue to have fan fiction being written, and so it's out there. If you're into whatever show you're into, if you're a big fan and you want to explore that, all you have to do is Google it a little bit, and you're going to find that there are individuals writing about them and expanding the horizons of the characters and that particular program, and it's fascinating what's out there. The creativity and imagination is just incredible. Highly recommend going out there if you've read pretty much what's out there like we did, and you want to find out more, and you want to be entertained and rewarded on a whole other level. Then definitely look into the fan fiction, just like I mentioned that Chris and I have been doing a lot of, and I've actually started branching out and being a fan of other sci-fi, but also things like another great 80s show was The Equalizer and The Highlander, right? So there's the television as well as the original movie, but there's a crossover between those two franchises in a pretty well written story that I just acquired. So I'm going to be reading that. I thought that would be really kind of cool. And there's a whole bunch of others. I mean, you can just look up whatever it is, whether it be, like Chris had said, Airwolf or Knight Rider or $6 Million Man or any of these great shows that we grew up with. And there is some really good, a lot of fun stuff out there. So yeah, we're going to talk about that even more as we, move forward into our programs. And, Chris, I know that your collection, your personal collection, is really something else. It's, I know that you've kind of showed it off a little bit, and I think you posted a picture.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we have,
go watch it.
yeah, we'll actually, I think we can, show off some of the, and make some recommendations for anybody that's really into the actual Galactica stuff. We will discuss that and maybe send you a couple of good recommendations, because there's good stuff. I mean, there's a large body of work, but there's also some really outstanding stories. And remember that these things are not just short stories. Some of these are full length novels.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you with an echo.
How about now?
Now it's okay.
All right. Well, if you want, I have the ability
to
show you my collection.
Oh man, and it's mobile. I love it.
So
let's do it.
This will get interesting. Hang on.
All right.
Yeah, let me go farther away from the microphone. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry for the mess. I'm still moving. So that posted this up earlier this week. This will be actually out of the boxes here shortly. They're not just boxes. So as Pete was saying, they had multiple different ones in regards to complete novels. So one of my favorite authors, Sharon Monroe. This is a complete novel.
Hey Chris, you got an echo going on? Can you just bring some of that over to the desk?
Yeah. Give me a second.
Okay. Yeah. If you could, and then we can. Hey, John V. John 1 is with us. Thanks for joining. We are about to show off. Other than Chris's finger or arm, we are going to. There we go. He's mobile. He's
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, way better. Oh man, look at that. Chris, is that a comic book store?
So
What is that? Where are we going?
a couple of the like this. So these are small ones. Sorry for the moving around. So these are really cool, different ones. These are mostly Sharon Monroe. There's Charles Owens. This one I believe is Fran Steven, yeah, Fran Steven. And then they have different ones that keep on. So this one here is actually a continuation of Count Ebly's story, which is really, really good. And some of these are available on the net for free. If you go to Fanzines, we'll show you where to go. Probably my all-time favorite. This one is. I just got attacked by someone.
That's the one. The Battle of Molokai.
Really
Highly recommended.
really good read. This is how Boj ended up on the Pegasus. How the Pegasus was lost. All of it's explained inside of here. It's really good. Then there is a continuation of that, sorry. Which was the Pegasus Chronicles. And this is part 2 of this one. This is after they left the Galactica. So before and then after they meet with the Galactica and they get away. This one is very interesting. For those people who like me, I love V. This is a crossover.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That really unique story. I love that one. And then some people were concerned with copyright problems. So Sharon Monroe came up with an actual script, and it was called Battlestar
Galactica. Oh boy, that's funny.
This one's really hard to find, and it's really funny. But I have to open it up and show you this. I can't remember the names of the characters, but she went off the characters. Sorry for the motion. But it's a screen. So instead of Boj, it's Blue Jay. Adamant instead of Adama. Claim instead of Kane. Instead of Apollo, it's Appalling.
So it's an actual screenplay. It's a screenplay, right, Chris?
Really interesting. A couple others that were made. This one's good. And it gives you an idea. Now these are fans that write this stuff. Look at this.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Right? It's a novel.
Yeah, it's no joke.
It is a novel. We're talking over 156 typewritten full-size pages.
Fantastic.
So these people wanted to continue the story. And then, so there's some great covers. Purple and Orange is probably one of my favorites. They had some great stories in there.
It was a very, very popular fanzine.
There's all Purple and Orange.
There you go.
This is Galactica.
Oh, nice.
They had different ones. Most of these are just colored covers. And then, of course, there's the...
the Colonials.
The Colonials.
Ooh.
This was
what number is that?
These are compilations of stories. This one's Gemini Press. So there's Slate Press, Gemini Press, multiple different presses. And they wrote stories, and they also penned in their own pictures.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's all original art. Very cool. Wow.
And then sometimes they did poetry in them. I don't think I can find the poetry. This is just a story. So, Love's Reward. Some of these now, Um, there's one particular,
Oh,
very, very, very hard to find. Let me find it.
there's
So this one is in a brown wrapper for a reason.
oh boy. Oh God. Here we go.
So it's purple and orange, but it was blue one. I'm not going to open this one on the air, but it's it has X-rated style stories in it. You know, it's
What? What are you talking about? What is that?
yeah. So let me find. Well, that's safe. There we go. So this is kind of the stuff that's in it.
Oh my God, what is that? All right, don't close that. Who is that? Is that Apollo? Who is that? Who's that supposed to be?
So,
That's crazy.
Here's the listing of stories. Ladies of
man.
the Evening, Vengeance is Mine, Star-Crossed
God.
Lovers is a good one. The Sin of the Father. And then, of course, there's the issue is to be sold to anyone under the age of 18. Good luck
That's
finding that one.
Yeah,
that
that's
one's
not gonna happen.
extremely hard to find.
Oh boy. Oh my God, that is so cool, Chris. Very
And
cool.
then there's a Battlestar review, and then of course
I got
one of the
that
better
one.
ones.
I got that
What's
one.
called Anomaly.
Oh yeah, Anomaly's phenomenal.
Anomaly is
Oh yeah.
all the covers kind of look similar to this one.
Yeah.
They had some really good stories in that one, and then they had some smaller
Adama
ones that were
Journal.
cheaper to print, like the
Oof.
Adama Journal. So this is the Adama Journal. And
Oh
it's,
my God, that is really
full-size
cool.
page, folded in half, very thin, very easy to mail, and of course they were only at this time 50 cents. And then of course
Wow.
this one has some information on the shows as well as the some stories.
Yeah, they had some updates on conventions and some of the early appearances too. So that's really cool. Very nice. Hey, why don't you grab a couple of those and bring them over to the
Spattering
desk?
of my collection. And then so if anybody knows this person, I'm looking for them. I came across these, and they're pitches.
What?
They're actual pitches for the show. So the person's is like this one is Knight in Cylon armor, and this is an actual
Whoa.
show pitch to Universal because it's already put as a teleplay. It's highlighted with the colors for the different people.
That's interesting. I've never seen
So
that.
you actually have the teleplay pieces here, and the person I'm looking for is who wrote it. Nobody knows who it is. I can't find him on the internet. So Laurel Ann Bush sounds familiar, but there's 3 of them here, 3 pitches. These are, wow, these are really good. So
Never before seen. This is unique to our show.
here we go.
I wonder how many people actually knew about those, not to mention what the stories are. So at some point, we're going to have Chris tell us what the stories are, because that is really, really cool. And I didn't even know he had them. So that is incredible, Chris. Wow. I have a couple of my own, and this is the Adama Journal. And this is pretty cool. It happens to be from 1981, and it's one of the towards the end of their run. It's issue 13, and I want to just open it up to the middle so you can see a little bit of what's inside these things. Check this out. Way cool, right? And here's the back of it, right? Back cover. You got a nice picture there of whoop. Let me just correct. There we go. And I don't know. How about
There we go.
how about the contents page? these are phenomenal. Here, take a look at that. Adama Journal. Look at this. I don't know how many of you guys have actually gotten to see the insides of this, but editor happens to be someone named Christopher Simmons. And let's see. Special thanks. And it's just, I'm like blown away by the quality of this one. The Adama Journal happens to be one of my favorites. And I have this one is the same as the one that Chris had showed you. I also have this. This is a reprint. This is kind of rare, Chris. I don't think you have any of these.
No, I don't have anything like that.
Yep. Tales of the Galactica. And there's the back.
A target.
And this is formally the Adama Journal number 11 and 12. And it's just incredible. This thing is very well put together and thought out. It's, you know, I'll just show you guys out there. Take a look at this. Athena pinup is what John.
If it has an Athena pinup, I got it. It's mine.
Yeah. So there's a lot here. You know, so they squeezed in a lot.
Hi, Eric. We see you, just so you know.
Yeah. So this is kind of like our setup, right? We have the guest that's in the wings, in the green room, so to speak. So we wanted to, you know, kind of give him a really strong segue, because we have someone that was involved very heavily and still is in the fan fiction world. And we are very, very happy and honored to have him come on to the show, because he's going to give us some of his insights, tell us a little bit about, you know, what it's like to actually produce, create, write some of these, you know, fan fiction pieces that, you know, we've just showed you in these magazines. And also, let's just make it quite clear that these stories that we're showing you, or that we're alluding to, are not just short stories. Some of these are full-length novels.
Yeah, Chris had saw that one that was like that thick.
It was,
unfortunately, Jawowski, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, recently passed away. Before I was looking for him, trying to get a hold of him, to interview him, and he had passed away probably about a year ago.
We missed him. We tried to get him on, because we want to try to just bring in a little bit of, you know, the pioneers and, you know, the founders of all of this stuff that's going on. Now, for the record, Chris, I know that, you know, some of our fans that are watching and some of the fans that are, you know, into the fan fiction, they know that a lot of this came from Star Trek, and that's how they, you know, they kept a lot of the franchise alive. There was there's a whole cottage industry that is, you know, built around, you know, fan fiction, and Star Trek was definitely at the forefront of it. And from there is where a lot of this, you know, just kind of exploded out. And yeah, I mean, you showed something that said it was 50 cents to get one.
Yeah.
Right? You would send, you know, and they sold these at conventions. Like I said, I ran into in the early 80s, Galactica had just gotten off of, you know, TV, and they were already out there. And I remember seeing one dealer had a huge box, a gigantic box of fan fiction that was of all kinds of shows, mostly Star Trek, but there was, you know, the beginnings of, you know, Galactica. Like some of these things are, you know, from the 80s, like the one I showed you earlier, that you have some of these. This is from 1981. So yeah, it's incredible.
And luckily, many of these, you know, if you don't, you know, you're on Facebook or on eBay, you're trying to buy them on eBay, they're like $50 or $60. Some of them, they're kind of pushed up in prices, but many of them are online. I can't remember the name of the site that has a lot of the older ones online.
Right.
But if you just search Clean Slate Press .pdf, you'll probably drop up a couple of them easy. They're out there because they're no longer produced anymore. So it's something that it's a collector's items. If you want the real meal deal to hold on to, they're gonna cost you a little bit, and you're gonna be competing against me.
Yeah, but Chris, you have like almost a full set. So how many more?
But almost.
What are you gonna get? Doubles?
Yeah,
Stop getting doubles, man. Let other people read them.
You might be able to get a couple doubles from me.
Couple doubles. Well, so there's a lot of really cool stuff, and the other good thing is that a lot of the fan fiction that we're talking about is actually in PDF form, and there are websites. There's many of them that have some of this up. They have some of these up. Not all of the stuff is up there, but again, you touched upon, some of us want to actually be able to read it the way we used to get these things. The paper actually have this thing versus the PDF version. But you can read them for nothing, for free. They're up there if you're really interested. And I think, Chris, we put up some links. Didn't we put up links?
We haven't put up links for those. I'll put them up after the show on the bottom of this one.
We should put in some links. We do have some good stuff.
Eric's got a whole he practically wrote half the website on the other one, so we let him talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Without any further ado, we again are really, really honored to have someone that was, all up in this, someone that actually was able to come in kind of at the tail end of, the megastars, the Sharon Monroes and Susan Paxtons of the fan fiction, but was able to, get his foot in the door, and then from there just took off and has written some really cool stuff. I mean, I'm going through one of them, and we'll when he comes on, when you bring him on, we'll talk about it, because I can barely stop reading it as is. But so we are happy to announce that Eric Paddon is with us. Dr. Paddon is here, and we're going to bring him on, and let's just talk. Let's talk shop. Let's talk writing. Let's talk stories. Let's talk Battlestar Galactica. So, Chris, why don't you make it happen?
There you go.
Eric.
Hello.
Hey,
hello.
Thanks for coming on, Eric.
Thank you. Glad I finally straightened out to go through the phone here instead of the computer this time with this. But I'm glad it's working. Great to be here, and thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, we've known we've known your work. We've known about your stuff. You've been around for decades, and personally, I've been reading a crossover that you did, and it is mind-blowing. It's a crossover between Planet of the Apes, one of my all-time favorites, and Battlestar Galactica, or 1978. And it is just, phenomenal. And I appreciate you sending that over.
Are the
What's the
Cylons
matter,
the apes?
Chris?
Are the Cylons the apes? Tell me that.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're in it, but we can't give too much away.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to read it then.
If you're a fan of Planet of the Apes and Battlestar Galactica, you gotta actually read this. It is incredible. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about the process. Tell us what it takes to do something like this, and give us a little bit of your history.
Well, yes, I started writing this on my own in the early 90s, I think, kind of at a stage when Galactica had returned on the Sci-Fi Channel for the first time, and it was the first time since I was young to go through all the episodes, and I think it was the first adult exposure to it and recognizing, boy, there's a lot of good character development. It goes beyond the things that I enjoyed as a kid with the effects, and that there are a lot of interesting stories to tell from the standpoint of the characters. And because of the strength of the last episode, The Hand of God opens up so many possibilities as a jumping off point here. The fascination of just wanting to explore what came next was just too irresistible. And so I started that on my own without really any contact with Sharon's fanzines and such. But by the mid-90s, when I hooked up to the internet and there was a mailing list, and Sharon and Susan, I believe, were members of the email list at the time. And so in this late stages, and I was able to get some of my early contributions to them and some of the final installments they ran. Specifically, it was a fixing the Galactica 1980 universe story. I mean,
you can fix that.
I mean, I always said fixing Galactica 1980 is like brain surgery. I mean, you try to take what was a bad premise, but how do you try to find a way to salvage it and make it close to the original? And so I wrote a trilogy of stories, Galactica 1984, and those were the ones that Clean Slate did publish in 1998 and 99, which I think were, again, among the last ones. This, if I'm holding up, is one of them. This was the part 2 installment. And the last one was kind of a bigger one. The third part was kind of the epic finale thing, but it was really more about how do you find ways to bring back the characters that you didn't see in Galactica 80? Maybe they were still around. I mean, and also building off Return of Starbuck, which at least offers some potential too, I think. But that was fun, and then kind of after Clean Slate sort of folded up by that point, the original mailing list spun off a fanfic mailing list in the late 90s, which is still around today. It's still going on after 25 years, and some of us still are contributing to it, and our stories get posted at the site galacticafanfic.com, which is run by a gentleman named Robert Hanchik, and he's been running it since 1995 as the repository for all our work, and a lot of other previous contributors. Even before that, there are even a couple of some of Sharon's late pieces and some others who were part of the old list in the 90s. So it's over several hundred stories after all these years. And because Robert's still going and keeping it going, we're able to still keep contributing.
Oh, that's phenomenal. We just put up the news site. We were exchanging information, and here it is. Lo and behold, the site is back up and running, and it's got all kinds of stuff, including, I think, is it complete with all your work, Eric? Do they have all the stuff on
yes,
there?
Everything I've written is up there, scattered about. He has a separate section for crossovers where the Planet of the Apes story is. And then kind of just the sort of standalone stories that everybody's contributed over the years. The online versions of the Galactica 84 stories, plus the things I did that were adaptations of the original series episodes, but trying to sort of do them a little bit differently from the way Thurston and the other authors did, to try to kind of unify them together, so to speak. And then the separate section is the ongoing virtual season project, which about 8 or 9 of us have been doing for the last 15 years and has reached well over 55 stories now.
Wow. So Eric, how does someone actually begin the process of doing this? And I know that you had some golden rules that you had put out on one of the boards many years ago, because one of the things that I want to mention about Eric is that you have been an active member of Battlestar Galactica and the internet from at least 30 years ago, and you've been out there, and you're traceable. If someone's willing to look up some of the things that you actually put out there, which are invaluable, like your rules of writing, can you elaborate a little bit on how you got involved, and then a little bit of advice on writing?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the writing, I mean, it might first depend on how long you're kind of wanting to go with it. I think it does help first that before you write, make sure you've kind of gone through the episodes fairly recently here. Just if you haven't seen, particularly now in this day and age where they are accessible thanks to DVD and Blu-ray, where we can access them kind of instantly, which a lot of us couldn't do when we started this back in the early 90s, but go through them to make certain you've got the feel for the continuity of the characters, and that you're not going to come up with something that's totally far afield. I think start by respecting how things unfolded in the episodes proper is always a good beginning.
Interesting. How do you build dialogue? What's the trick?
Well, I think building dialogue it always helps to sort of first, as you write it, then maybe kind of read it back a lot. Say, is this really how a natural conversation would proceed? I think that's kind of helpful if you are writing dialogue. To sort of get the sense that is this how you'd have a real conversation for real going, and to kind of maybe avoid having one character go into too long a monologue for several pages might sometimes help or something. Try to get sort of the mind to envision, picture this unfolding just like you see on the screen is kind of, I think, another helpful guide to just sort of going along with it. I mean, I think I found that to be a very big help, and to sort of anticipate logically where you go from one point to the next is usually a good bit of advice I found. I found following that advice even helped me make fanfic writing, even helped me in my regular line of work as a history teacher and instructor and writer of research papers.
Interesting. Eric, we have when we get as you well know because you've been on the show. So when we have our live fans on, we'd like to make sure we recognize those. So Rick K came on, and Sean, of course, our very own Sean, who's going to be featured on a 10 cent on and an interview later on is with us. So thanks for joining us, guys. And of course, Jeff A, Planet of the Apes, big fan. Jeff, advise you to get that PDF. It's an actual novel, and I am about halfway through it, and I keep having to stop myself from continuously reading. Like, I'm probably going to end up reading the whole thing this weekend. It's really, really good. So Eric, in terms of you actually took on this project, and since 2004 you've been a part of a group of writers, and it's a virtual season project that you're basically continuing Battlestar Galactica 1978, the series itself. And you guys, if I'm not mistaken, are on season 5 of the series. How do you do that? Where do you go with the story? What was your vision? How did you make this happen? Because it's 50 stories so far, and I think everybody deserves to know that you've done this, and give us background, please.
Yeah, it started, I have to admit, at a time when the Ron Moore reimagining kind of came out, and I don't want to, of course, go into the areas of how that kind of was for some people a little bit disappointing at the time, because it did kind of mean that there wasn't going to be a continuation revival. That kind of motivated, I think, some of us to say, well, we're not going to be seeing one anytime soon, so let's try to do something more ambitious than just a one-off story, as all of us tend to write, pretty much in isolation. We're writing maybe one or two stories, but we wanted to do something a little bit more ambitious, in which we're not going to be rushing them to get to Earth or have the last battle with the Cylons right away or something like that, but to try to slow down sort of more at the pace and in the kind of the vision of what Galactica might have been had it lasted several years, in which allowing us to explore things inside the fleet, slowly developing new character relationships like Apollo and Sheba and Starbuck and Cassiopeia, and introducing some new elements as well. I think taking that sort of slower approach, in which we're not distracted by big ideas that we might tend to do in one-off stories, it's allowed us to kind of pace ourselves very well. And it's had its kind of ebb and flow moments. Some writers, like even I, took a sabbatical from it for a number of years, but there have been other good writers in our list who have picked up the slack and have kept it going. And as I say, we're still going strong and still have maybe at least as many as 7 or 8 stories, hopefully in the till within the next year or so.
Wow, that's incredible. Going back to some of the things that you had, we're now actually on the screen here. We have the website where we have your episodes up, and it's just incredible, Eric, the amount of work that goes into this, the passion, and obviously the love for the show. is admirable. You know, this is the type of thing that inspires us because it touched all of us somehow, somewhere, and it led us to this point in time. So it brought Chris and I together. Obviously, now you're here with us, and so it's done something for us. And you know, it's all a good thing. But there's a couple of things that I found in terms of your golden rules of writing fan fiction. There was three main points that you brought up many years ago on some I'm not sure exactly what site that was, but it was that always know your ending or your general
Oh,
ending
yes.
before you start. Never adopt the lost philosophy of not knowing where you're going. That was your number one.
Yes.
Then your second was don't get carried away by gimmick elements like introducing too many characters or weigh things down too much with inside references to obscure episodes. The best fanfic stories are ones that try to keep that at a minimum for the sake of casual fans of the show. So that's definitely
Mhm.
I never thought of
Yeah,
it that way,
I
but
think those first points, I think I wrote even before there was a series called Lost that sort of threw those rules out the window. Yeah.
but they work well for what we are
Mm.
writing about and following and then the third one is try to keep a natural orderly sense of logical progression in events. So I don't know, that all sounds good to me, especially I guess,
Yeah.
working out the storylines and concepts for these types of fan fiction, episodes, stories, novels. And there's a couple of other things that you had delved into in responses over the years. As a matter of fact, I'm quoting something that's from December 2011. So, and it still sounds good to me, Eric. And so, what else is there? That rule, the rewriting rule, is that something that you adhere to as well? It's not done till it's five times.
Well, I think doing some rewriting and polishing is usually a good idea before the final submission, just to sort of trust your own, yourself to that there are probably some areas that can be improved. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think you don't want to rewrite it endlessly, for too long. But certainly, I think it certainly does help to do that.
Sean says, I forgot I have two stories on there from back in the day. Appreciate you maintaining the site. Well, Sean, we're going to discuss that. I want you to don't forget to bring those up when the time comes because we surely want to hear about that. So, in terms of your other, because Battlestar Galactica, obviously, Eric is your mainstay, but we also know that you've delved into Wonder Woman. You've actually done, I think it's Columbo. So, how does that
Yes.
play into this? Tell us a little
Well,
bit about
Columbo
that.
is that's totally different. I mean, Columbo, I wrote several stories. The site unfortunately is gone, although it's bookmarked under the Wayback Machine, thankfully.
Oh yeah,
But I
those things
found
are
Columbo.
awesome.
That was the thing where I had to write them out is because the totally different approach because that character is so enigmatic. You don't like to write narratives getting inside his head. You just want to write it more in a script format. Keeps it easier to maintain that sense of distance. I found, and it's very tough. I think I only did it about 4 times because you have to follow some intricate rules there. Whereas Galactica is a lot more easier, a lot more relaxing. I've found.
Wow. Janet J is with us. Thanks for tuning in. Eric, in terms of, I'm sure you've answered this and heard this many times before. Why spend so much time? And the answer is somewhat obvious since we have a love for this, this story and the characters and the show. But why not just write your own novels? Why not just instead of spending as much time on this, why not
Yeah,
do the other thing?
yeah, that's a good question. I think it is probably the comfort zone factor. I think I've found myself in my case that there's a lot more trepidation about doing something totally original. I mean, it's like a totally unknown thing that you have to prove to someone else, and yet when you've got this comfort zone of a series and characters you think you know inside out, it feels more like a safety zone by comparison, and as a result, that I think kind of explains why people who don't have the ambition to want us to strike out and become a professional writer and brave it, they might find that from a recreational standpoint, flexing this kind of writing thing in a fanfic world is a little bit easier. I mean, and you feel more comfortable, I think, sharing it with other people than you might with something totally original. That's just how it's felt in my experience.
Eric, are you still in touch with Sharon Monroe or Susan Paxton or any of the other?
No, unfortunately, they did not migrate over to the. They unfortunately did not migrate to the fanfic mailing list, which is still going on to this day. I certainly wish I knew what became of them. They again were part of the old mailing list that this other one's kind of spun off from, and it tended, and they unfortunately I know didn't come along at that stage. Unfortunately, I certainly hope that they're still active. I know again that some of their older stuff, I've seen that on the internet too, and I hope to delve into some of that stuff from the 80s, which I myself have never had full time to get involved with. And I know that help did set a standard.
Yeah, sure. Some of the stuff that they wrote was amazing.
Yeah, it is. Some of it's just crazy. Eric, what about conventions? Are you a big convention goer? How many?
No,
have you done panels?
I've never actually in my experience gotten to any conventions. Again, mostly I think probably because of the distance factors or just not having enough time given my regular lines of work. I've certainly been in touch with people who have been part of them. Probably one of my closest friend who has since passed away, unfortunately, but who lived in the town next to me in New Jersey, had been active at some of these conventions in the late 80s and certainly at the 15 Yarn Con in 93 and shared some great stories with that. But I've always just kind of, I think, found that this has been my biggest way to be involved in Galactica, for the most part. And I guess I've tended to find a lot of us writers, we tend not to be amongst those, I suppose, who buy the technical journals or do the model kits or things like that. This tends to be our valve or outlet for that. I don't know whether it's just because people who know how to or have a little bit more talent in writing and tend to not have any artistic great talent in that sense for my base. But I know I certainly don't. I have no drawing talent whatsoever. I could never do an illustration.
I can't build models. I can't draw or anything else. Maybe I should try the writing piece of it.
You're too humble, Eric. I would love to hear you on a panel and just talk live about this stuff would be phenomenal. And for the record, others have done that. And it's sometimes it's time to come out from the other side of the curtain. And we're so glad that you took your time out to come and share some of this stuff with us, because we're fans. And, we love what you've been doing. And if it wasn't for you, who knows, a lot of this stuff may not have, come to fruition. And, without the fans, then what is there? So, man, your work is incredible.
And certainly, again, Robert Hanchek, who's maintained the site, and it was his site, and he was great enough to keep that going. He provided us with the incentive, I think, to keep writing. If not for him and maintaining it, some of us might have lost an nerve, because we wouldn't have been able to know where's the main outlet to share all of this with people. So I certainly give the greatest tip of the hat to him for allowing us to keep doing this, and for new people like yourselves to discover it as well.
Eric, where do you have original copies of all the stuff that you wrote?
Well, I wrote them all they've all been written on the computer, so I certainly have all the files, and everything uploaded that I have written is on the Robert site. So yeah, I certainly have all of my work, and and basically everyone else's work that's up there I've tried to keep downloaded as well too.
Cool. Where do you want to go with all this? Where does this take you, I guess, is the question.
Well, I think it's just the satisfaction that I think one other reason why the fanfic urge can be there is because it does allow us to enjoy the experience of even watching the series again without the nagging question of in the mind constantly of, boy, what happened next? I wish they'd done this thing here. I mean, if you do help, I think, satisfy some creative visions and even coming up with multiple different takes on what might have happened, it does enhance the appreciation just when you sit down to watch the episodes themselves. Because there are some shows that abruptly they never resolve their storylines that you might always have that lingering frustration with, but exercising this way I think allows us to keep looking at the show itself first and foremost with appreciation and without any of the regrets over what they didn't fulfill.
So do you have your own manual, so to speak? Do you have your own encyclopedia that you turn to?
Well, not one specifically, although lately for the virtual season, because we found that over the years there'd been so many stories, and when you have that many, it's hard to keep track. I have been putting together like a virtual season Bible reference guide just to help those who want to write future stories for it and to kind of keep track of it. But in terms of a general thing, no, not at this point.
Interesting.
Chris, I have a question.
Chris, you have some ideas. Go ahead.
So I was just curious. So you're aware that is it Universal? Yeah, Universal is looking to do a Battlestar Galactica reboot, and we're not talking the one from Sam Esmail, but Esmail's probably saying it wrong, but the Mr. Robot director. So not the Peacock channel, but Universal is actually looking at doing a movie reboot and basing it in the original storyline. If you were given the opportunity to write the pilot for that, how would you think it would go? What would you put into it?
In terms of that's an interesting question. In terms of kind of giving it a new take on it in the original storyline, that is a hard question. I've never kind of pondered how to reimagine, I suppose, in the new concept. I think even from a standpoint of remaking the original storyline, that I would certainly hope that if it's like starting afresh, that is kind of, I think, different as opposed to if they were starting it new, like 50 years after the original or something like that. I'd probably have more definite ideas about how to slip in at least a homage without being obtrusive or anything like that.
Okay, so let's go with that. So let's say it is 50 years in the future. How would you rate that one?
Well, I'd probably just sort of for the sake of fans who want to know about a couple of long-standing questions, but not overly intruded. Like if you have Apollo's son or grandson in command of the Galactica, you could maybe have an Anne Lockhart cameo as Sheba, and then suddenly that, in just without going into too deeply, say, oh, then Apollo and Sheba probably did get together. Or if you have Dirk doing a cameo as Starbuck, he might be lecturing some new cadets and say, now, like my father who was an old con man, and then in one sentence, oh, he did find out Fred Astaire is his father or something. Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of touches where I think, if you could just drop those in, they don't have to take up too much time here, but then the longtime fan says, oh, great, now we got a little bit of closure on these points here. Now let's proceed ahead with a new thing, and we can really get more into the new things that are going on.
Did you ever get an opportunity to read the, I always mess this up, the DeSanto script? The script that was, the
I've never seen the full script.
Got done? Yeah.
I've read the treatment of it. I've read a summary of it, and I was pretty amazed by the fact that he was bringing it close to a continuation idea that I think would have been well worth exploring. I mean, obviously, I think, of course, the danger of being a fanfic writer is you don't fall in love with your own visions too much that it'll blind you to the merit of someone else's project. Or something like that. But I certainly think it would have been impressive, given that he was going to be bringing back a number of characters and opening the door for more of them to appear.
Right. We can send it to you if you want. I've got it, but it's really good.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see the whole. Yeah, I've never seen the script, so yeah, that would be very good.
It's a unique story, and it would open up right into so some of the stuff that you have is kind of the same direction per se, and you're in the series, but it's good, and I love. I hate reading. I'm a big audiobook guy because I drive so much back and forth.
What?
But when I do read something, I want it to be worth it, and I've the stuff that I've read fiction wise has really drawn me into the Battlestar realm and close your eyes at night and imagine type things. It's like, wow, what if? And then, of course, nobody gets you.
And none of us, I will say, have ever wanted to do any fanfic adaptations, I think, along the line of Glenn Larson's second season Memo. I think that was a little too much for...
Anybody who gets rid of Athena's got a problem, so...
Yeah, well, they ran rid of Sheba and recasting everything. Yeah, that was... Yeah, I think a lot of us, it kind of made us say, if that's what you were going to do, Glenn, then...
We're glad it didn't go through.
Yes, I mean, well, like I say, that's, yeah.
Greg C. is watching with us. Thank you for joining us. Eric, Sean has a question. Thoughts on Robert Thurston's novels?
I think Thurston's novels, I've been rereading the early ones, and I think you do have to accept them as an alternate, universe dynamic, because he was going from the earlier drafts. The Cylons were reptiles, and I think the first two are the strongest because it was easier to maintain that. And then once he got to the third and the fourth novels, he was kind of running into the fact that, introducing other elements of merging Cylons, robots, and reptiles, and that I thought got a little bit tougher. But the first two is kind of a different alternate universe of how the original concept might have gone. I think are very impressive. But one reason why I ended up doing my own adaptations, though, was to kind of provide a novelized version more along the lines of how things unfolded in the series proper. So it wasn't so much a diss at Thurston that made me do that, as opposed to, well, what if we put into novelized form, the Cylons are robots, and can we drop some foreshadowings of episodes early on, and things like that. So I think from a different standpoint, though, Thurston's are quite good.
And what about 11 to 14, the later books that he was not writing?
Yeah, those I have still never sat down and gone through all the way. I guess I think I've gotten as far as number 9, basically, which was the Experiment in Terra adaptation. But yeah, I've been meaning to sit down and go through those and to see how he connected them back to what he was doing earlier, because the novels I found were trying to be their own seamless universe. Sometimes I think that got to be a little bit tougher as they went along.
So when you write, do you think, and I know what you've done already, but just, is it better to do the individual stories like Battlestar Galactica had, or is it better to run the stories together like Battlestar Galactica 2004?
Well, I think you can do it a blend. I think you can blend the concept fairly well, because I think the original series offered a blend in that, the individual stories were self-contained, but yet there was always an underlying forward momentum. I mean, you can watch any episode of classic Star Trek out of sequence and it doesn't matter, but you can't do that with Galactica. I think you have to keep going forward, because they would make references to previous episodes and they'd be mindful of what's gone on before, even if it wasn't purely serialized. So I think the approach we try, at least certainly in the virtual season, is to maintain that spirit. The individual story can be self-contained, but we can still drop these threads that are ongoing, and everybody's aware of what's gone before. To me, it's always such a brilliant touch that, they refer to Commander Kane and Serena in subsequent episodes of the original. That's part of Galactica's strength.
I can see that.
Well, Eric, you said that that you've tried to create a unified flow of the series in some of the works that you've actually done. And so there is, you said, you gave an example when we exchanged information, it said something to the reference of adding scenes of, which you alluded to earlier, foreshadowing in an earlier episode, such as having Charybdis from Murder on the Rising Star appear in Saga, or having Cassiopeia think about Commander Kane and the likes. So is that part of, you think, a good technique when approaching something like this?
Well, I think for that, if in sort of just doing the original series episodes along those lines, but yeah, I think, of course, that's taking advantage of the hindsight factor. I freely admit, here. When you had all the episodes and we'd seen everything, then okay, go back, and it's then, I admit, a lot easier just to do that from the hindsight standpoint and do all that, and that would be a different challenge going forward. I admit, with things completely fresh, but that would sort of require a lot more longer term plotting out. Thinking ahead, what's sort of going to be a thing I'm going to tackle 5 or 6 stories down the line or something, maybe drop a point here and then. That can be a little bit more complex, I admit.
Interesting. Fascinating. And so again, circle back to where are we going in terms of, your writing and, Galactica and some of the outside projects as well. Where are you headed?
Well, yeah, we've again got more virtual season stories in the mix. Other authors are contributing. We've got at least several, and sometimes you do have to sit back and wait for them to finish their projects. There has to be an allowance for real life to let projects be finished. That's kind of what I'm mostly concentrating on with Galactica right now. I know I could never write something as long as that Planet of the Apes crossover again. That took up, I think, about 3 or 4 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
20
awesome.
odd years.
That's like Pete in his book. How many years did it take you to write your book?
7.5. I got you beat.
Yeah.
7.5.
Yeah.
and
that was, I think, in the end, 450 pages. Generally, the usual norm for me is somewhere between 50 and 150 for things I do nowadays. And right now, as I said, there's some ongoing things here. Virtual season that I'll be doing. We have a couple of other authors. Who's one? Her name is Carla. She's contributed to the virtual season, has her own standalone universe of stories as well, some of all parts. And one of our other contributors, whose name is Lisa, she had her own separate universe, so-called Empyrean universe. I don't know if she's going to be writing anything new there, but some of us who've been involved in the virtual season have had their own separate universe projects as well. And we always look forward to seeing if they'll have anything new in the future too. I know for myself in the virtual season, I did advance things. It took us this long to finally bring in the element of the Pegasus again, and I'm not really giving away anything too much, and finding that what got me back into writing was the challenge of bringing back from the dead for this storyline Commander Adama's wife, but with a new twist in that.
You never know.
But the new twist is, I know you've talked about a Marvel Comics episode, that issue where Boomer finds a shuttle with and the Dama's wife is on board and dying. I sort of use that as a jumping inspiration to say, okay, what if take that idea? There's a shuttle with the Commander Dama's wife is trying to catch up with the guy, but instead she's picked up by the Pegasus, and that creates a whole new dynamic story.
Some of that inside of Kane's Command, I think, is the one I was showing earlier, where they actually have Boxy's father on board the Pegasus, and there's some really that's a unique and really interesting storyline. I think is to bring back. That's an easy way to bring back the character, is to have them survive on another
way to keep them separate. And if you can also think of some interesting stunt guest casting in your mind when you come up with a new character who could have acted alongside of our regulars. I mean, and things like that. That's sometimes an interesting game to play in this thing. Like for, I mean, for Adama's wife, I keep envisioning an early '80s Lee Remick for some reason. So, so that makes it then easier to write a new character interacting with the others and so on.
What do you got, Pete? That's how you pick something up.
Yeah, Eric, I wanted to ask you, in terms of promoting some of the current writers, how do they get their fan fiction out there, and is there a submission process? How do we?
Yeah, I'd have to look up it's possible to still join our mailing list, our email list. And sometimes maybe send something there, and Robert Hanchik I know still takes submissions, though, because of his timetable. You do have to wait for it's when it's convenient for him to upload some new things. But I know he has a link directly on his site for submissions as well. That's I know that there is on a direct level.
I think it's
Excellent. Yeah, we want to try to support.
Send Word documents. There it is.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Yeah, we want to support this part of fandom, and everyone that, like we mentioned earlier in the show, there is at least at least one group. There may be more, and you'd mentioned, Eric, that there's still writers out there. You and your group are still writing, but there's others that are still involved. And so we want to make sure that there's an outlet, and that we keep at least the Galactica aspect going, because there are all these other shows, the vampire shows I know are still very popular, and there's a lot of fanfic for that. But in terms of the Galactica, it's good to know that there still is a place for these continuing writers or new writers to submit and get their material hopefully at least published in the fanfic world. Curiously enough, has there ever been a competition? Has there ever been anything like that, like a writers thing where they there's like a panel, and maybe they pick out like the best, say, fanfic short story? Do you know of anything like that, Eric?
Yeah, not in my experience. I have to admit. I think probably that might be more due to the fact that there has been a little bit of an ebb flow sort of thing with the fanfic, kind of in more later years. It hasn't been there was a stretch, it wasn't quite as up, but certainly not with our group.
Would you be interested in putting something together like that if IFB were also to come together with you and maybe some of the other admins and founders of some of the other groups? Would you I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you think you would be interested in maybe if we can bring this back and have people write original pieces?
Yes,
would you be
I would certainly love to see more outside contributors coming up with their own ideas and their own takes on how things go. I think the more the better. At this point, there is because we do have the luxury of knowing that there is no one definitive answer on how things ended up, and there is room for so many I think, interesting, creative takes that I'm certainly all for seeing a lot more join in.
It's kind of what we're doing here is
So
we're hoping that this gets out and more people get involved. There's many people on a lot of the fan sites that websites, that Facebook sites that we are members of, that write little stories inside of there, or like we have one site that's trying to do a continuation story throughout the whole the thing. So I think there's people out there who do want to write, but they just don't know where to go. Where can they put this? Where can it be seen?
Yeah, and who can you share it with? Yeah, I think that can hold a lot of people back, as I've said. But for Robert's side, I think probably a lot of us would have probably just stopped or something like that. Yes, I mean, when there is that one outlet, it is a great incentive boost.
Yeah, because nobody wants to do something. Well, a lot of people do things for themselves, but they feel a lot better when they do something and it's recognized by somebody else as being amazing or great. It gives them joy. Then, you know, hey, if one person reads my story and enjoys it, then check the box. It was worth it.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the way I would feel if I wrote something like that.
Yes.
Never tried. Maybe I should, but
maybe you need to.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Just
From the
please, for any new
view.
submissions, let's keep the slash out though. That's don't want anything to do with that.
Oh yeah.
Good point. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Eric, thank you a million times over for taking your time out and coming and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us. And, you know, we're going to have an open door policy. At some point, we'd like to have you come back. We'll get in touch with you. And, you know, it was really awesome that you were able to. I know there was a bit of a hiccup on your end, our end, whatever.
Yeah.
But thank you for persevering and coming on.
Glad
And
it
I know
worked out.
everybody enjoyed it. I've been going through all of the comments and everybody's, thumbs up. And they're very grateful for your time and your insights. So we definitely will reach out to you. We want to have you come back. And who knows? We have some celebrations coming up, and maybe in the future we do a submission thing, and maybe we'll do our own inside panel, and who knows? Maybe we can
contest type
some
thing. Say, can't be more than so many words or so many pages, and we all
inspire
read,
some
all
of the
read
new
it
writers.
And vote on it, and that would be fun. That'd be really fun.
I think so.
I think it'd be great to see.
Oh, I hope so. I think we can make this happen, but only with your support. So it all hinges on the fans and people like yourself, Eric, that are willing to support. And I mean, you're still writing, and we love your work. And the Planet of the Apes Battlestar Galactica crossover is worth every second. You guys, I can't encourage you enough to go out and read it. It's on the site. We're going to give you a link. I am halfway through it, and it is phenomenal. Two of my biggest loves, Planet of the Apes and Battlestar Galactica. Next show, though, Sean is going to be with us for a 10 centon segment, and so we're looking forward to that. John 1 will be with us for some news, and we will then begin our review, Eric, of the Cylon Death Machine. So we're going to go over that and do some comparisons between the actual episodes and the book itself. So that's coming up. And Lola wants to, last comment coming in from Lola. Eric, I've got a lot of your writing via email. Thank you so much. So you got it. I know, Eric, right? You got, there's fans out there. They're all over, not only in the Battlestar Galactica realm, but I know that there's fans of yours in the Wonder Woman, Columbo, and the rest, but at least the IFB fans are behind your work, and we love everything you've done. So thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you very much. You do a great job. Thank you.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
How are you feeling now, Chris? I know you were a little anxious. I didn't let you talk too much about Cylons and destruction, and you were a little distracted, and I had you reading. You did a little reading, and you had to bring out your collection of fanzines, and I know that disturbed your orderly way of doing things.
You messed up the orderly way of the universe, just like every other colonial person does.
Yes, that's right. So I'm hoping that you've partially, yes, he's tipsy, Sean. That is correct. So I'm hoping that you've partially recovered, Chris. That was way cool that we got Eric on, man. One of the original, pioneers, so to speak. At least the closest to. We're gonna have some definite pioneers.
Sean is coming on. Is it next one?
Yep.
Next week. Yeah. So just so you know, Sean mentioned he had a couple of.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, outstanding. Oh boy, I think he's got a trilogy. There's 3 of them.
I only see 2 here, so.
I think there's another one out there.
Battlestar Poseidon.
Oh boy.
Oh man! Years before the end saga of a Star World.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, well, Sean's going to be with us, so
we can talk about those next week.
Oh, we're definitely going to talk about that and squeeze in whatever else we can, and we're going to have a great show with Sean as well. But Eric was really cool, man.
Oh, yeah. I can't,
guys. I'm reading the Planet of the Apes crossover, Battlestar Galactica, Planet of the Apes. I'm reading it as we speak, and I highly recommend it. It's novel length, and it's very, very well written. You would know if you've seen the movies, if you know Planet of the Apes, and of course we all know Galactica. When you read that, you're like, oh my God! You're like, my head was exploding. I think everyone else will enjoy it just as much. Not to mention all the other work that he's worked on and done, and so. Yeah, I don't know, Chris, we actually, I think we met our quota for our show. We
have a quota?
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. There's check boxes that we have to actually see. You don't understand this.
Yeah, I guess
it's all in your circuitry. You just keep going through that circuit.
Figure that out.
Yeah, you better. That's right. You see, Lola said that her toaster is broken, and I hope that's not affecting Chris. Lola, you gotta get a new toaster because Chris is freaking out.
I thought the silence took over her microwave.
That's mean. Don't be mean, man. There's no need for you to be like that callous about that. There was an emergency situation. She handled it properly, and if it's Cylon related, there's going to be an investigation by the Colonial Police Force.
Oh, you guys have a police force.
Jeff says the algorithm must have fallen astray, and that's probably what it is.
It wasn't on the spreadsheet I saw, so
that's probably what it was. Chris says interesting show. Thank Chris P for watching and tuning in. So, Chris, any lasting last moment words, any closing statements?
No, I think we ought to just go ahead and mention that we're on Facebook under Interfleet Broadcasting, and we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitch, and we're on YouTube. If you get a chance to get to those, go ahead and like us on YouTube. We haven't really pushed the YouTube issue much. We've always been on Facebook because it seems like where our biggest audience is. But to get a link on YouTube that says Interfleet Broadcasting, you have to have 100 people at least like your page. We haven't been pushing it much, so we only got like 18. So if you get a chance, head over there, give the checkbox on the YouTube, subscribe there. Also, like today was kind of I don't know if anybody else had the experience of Facebook dropping. Facebook was out for about an hour and a half today, where I'm at. So it was up and on and off for about an hour and a half, and we're like close to the end of this, close to the beginning of this. I'm like, oh, at least we broadcast on YouTube and Twitch, and I'm like, how many people know that we broadcast on YouTube and Twitch too at the same time? So I was like, so luckily it came up. I threw a post up. Hopefully, if you're watching on YouTube, great. If you're watching on Twitch, awesome. If you're watching on Facebook, great. We love to have you no matter where you're coming from. But we definitely love to have you here because fans are what keeps us going. Pete and I would talk by ourselves, but it's no fun. It's more fun. That's poor Pete. I'm like, it's no fun talking to him. No, it's more fun when we have more people involved. More people involved. So,
Easy.
whoops, what the heck is that? That's
a storm coming. That's the fog. You don't want that fog. That's a colonial fog, man. It's gonna rust you up.
So, please don't forget to join us and thanks for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy. Pete, any final words?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Keep giving us the thumbs up. Stay safe, and see you next show. Fans fuel the fleet. Thanks, guys. It wouldn't be the same without you. So, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time.
Yep. Y'all take care.